My wife's sister's birthday party was held at a luxury restaurant, but there was no seat for me. My wife's mom said, "Why don't you try that dirty pub across the street?" My wife added, "It suits you perfectly." I smiled and said, "I'll do that," before quietly leaving. But when they saw me enter the pub, their faces turned pale. My name is Marcus Grant, and right now I'm holding what might be the most expensive piece of paper I've ever touched in my life. This invitation to my sister-in-law Felicia's birthday dinner is printed on cardstock, so thick you could probably use it as armor, with actual gold foil that catches the late afternoon sun streaming through our Boston apartment window. The whole thing screams money, the kind of old school, generational wealth that my in-laws love to flaunt like a badge of honor. I never expected much from my wife's family, to be honest. After 3 years of marriage, I've learned to keep my expectations lower than a snake's belly when it comes to these people. But this invitation? This thing right here is a whole new level of passive-aggressive bullshit wrapped up in fancy stationery. The envelope's got Isla's handwriting on it. That perfect cursive she learned at some prep school in Connecticut where they probably taught etiquette alongside calculus. Mr. and Mrs. Grant, it says on the outside, all proper and formal. But when I flip this golden nightmare open, there's my wife's name printed in elegant script, Ms. Isla Henderson Grant. And right underneath, in letters so small they might as well be microscopic, it says +1. +1. Not Marcus. Not, and loving husband. Just +1. Like I'm some random guy she met on Tinder and decided to bring along for kicks. I've been dealing with this crap for years now, ever since Isla and I started dating back in college. Her family treats me like I'm some kind of temporary glitch in their perfect little world. Like if they just ignore me long enough, I'll disappear and she'll come to her senses and marry some trust fund baby named Preston or Chadwick who summers in the Hamptons and has never worked a real day in his life. The thing is, I get why they don't like me. I'm not their ideal son-in-law material. I didn't grow up in some mansion in Beacon Hill. I don't have a corner office at daddy's investment firm. And I sure as hell don't spend my weekends playing polo or whatever rich people do for fun. I'm just a regular guy from Southie who worked his ass off to make something of himself. And apparently that's not good enough for the Henderson clan. But here's what really pisses me off. I actually love their daughter. I mean, really love her. Even when she pulls stunts like this, even when she lets her family walk all over me like I'm yesterday's newspaper, I still can't imagine my life without her. She's funny and smart and beautiful. And when it's just the two of us, none of this other bullshit matters. It's only when her family gets involved that everything goes to hell. So yeah, this invitation stings. It stings like a motherfucker, if I'm being completely honest. Every instinct I've got is telling me to crumple this thing up, toss it in the trash, and spend the evening doing literally anything else. But I'm not going to do that. You know why? Because I'm not the kind of guy who lets his pride get in the way of supporting the woman he loves, even when that woman doesn't seem all that interested in supporting me back. I head to our bedroom and pull out my best suit, the charcoal gray one I bought for our wedding 3 years ago. It still fits like a glove, still makes me look like I belong in rooms full of people who use summer as a verb and think $100 dinner is pocket change. I take my time ironing the shirt, polishing my leather shoes until they shine like mirrors, and even dig out the silver cufflinks my old man gave me before he passed away. If they want to treat me like some kind of outsider, fine. But I'm going to show up looking like $1,000,000. The gift situation was trickier. What the hell do you buy for a 26-year-old woman who already has everything money can buy? I spent the better part of my Saturday afternoon wandering around Newberry Street, checking out boutiques and jewelry stores, looking for something that said, thoughtful brother-in-law, instead of desperate guy trying way too hard. Finally settled on this gorgeous silk scarf from some French designer whose name I can't even pronounce. Cost me more than I wanted to spend, but it's classy and elegant, and it shows I actually put some thought into this whole thing. La Veranda. Christ, even the name sounds pretentious. It's this fancy French joint downtown that charges more for an appetizer than most people spend on groceries in a week. The kind of place where the waiters all have that look like they're doing you a personal favor just by taking your order, and the wine list reads like a dissertation on why you're not sophisticated enough to be there. I've been there exactly once before, for Isla's parents' anniversary last year, and I spent the entire evening feeling like everyone in the place could smell the working class on me. Like they all knew I didn't belong in their world of 5-course meals and $30 cocktails with names I couldn't pronounce. But tonight's gonna be different. Tonight I'm walking in there with my head held high, my expensive gift wrapped in paper that probably cost more than most people's lunch, and my game face firmly in place. Because whatever else happens, whatever little insults and snide comments they've got planned for me, I'm gonna be there for my wife. I'm gonna smile, make polite conversation about the weather and the stock market, and show them that Marcus Grant doesn't back down from a fight, even when that fight is disguised as a birthday party. The really fucked up thing is, I actually thought maybe this time would be different. I thought maybe, just maybe, after 3 years of marriage and countless family gatherings where I've been nothing but polite and respectful, they'd finally start treating me like actual family instead of like some unwanted guest who overstayed his welcome. I was wrong, obviously, but that's okay. I've been underestimated before, and let me tell you, it never works out too well for the people doing the underestimating. Walking into La Veranda is like stepping into some kind of fairy tale, if fairy tales were designed by rich people with more money than sense. The place is absolutely dripping with luxury, and I'm talking about the kind of over-the-top elegance that makes your wallet cry just from looking at it. There are roses everywhere, and I mean everywhere. White ones, pink ones, red ones the color of fresh blood, all arranged in these massive crystal vases that probably cost more than my car payment. The tablecloths are this shimmering gold linen that catches the light from the chandeliers hanging overhead like something out of a goddamn palace. Every surface that isn't covered in flowers is reflecting light off polished champagne flutes, crystal water glasses, and silverware so shiny you could probably use it to signal passing aircraft. The whole room buzzes with that particular kind of energy you only get when you've got a bunch of wealthy people in one place, all trying to outdress and outlaugh each other. Everyone's already deep into celebration mode. Clinking glasses, throwing their heads back in those perfectly practiced laughs that rich people seem to learn in finishing school, and posing for photos with their phones held at just the right angle to catch the best lighting. I take a deep breath and step further into this glittering circus, my eyes scanning the room for any sign of where the hell I'm supposed to sit. That's when I notice the place cards. Oh, these fucking place cards. They're scattered across every table like little paper landmines, each one written in the same fancy calligraphy that probably cost more per letter than most people make in an hour. I start making my way around the room, checking table after table, looking for my name among all the other guests. And let me tell you, they've got place cards for everybody and their goddamn mother. There's one for Isla, of course, positioned at what's obviously the main table right next to the birthday girl. There's one for Felicia, printed on slightly thicker cardstock because she's the guest of honor. I see cards for Isla's parents, Richard and Virginia Henderson, positioned like the king and queen of this whole shit show. Moving to the next table, I spot cards for Isla's cousins, the twins Bethany and Brittany, who I've met exactly twice, and who both look at me like I'm something they scraped off their designer heels. There's one for Isla's college roommate Sarah, who works at some nonprofit that her daddy funds so she can feel good about herself while still living off trust fund money. Hell, there's even a place card for Isla's hairstylist, some guy named Marco who charges $300 for a haircut and talks with this fake Italian accent that fools absolutely nobody. But Marcus Grant? Not a goddamn trace. I check every table twice, thinking maybe I missed it somehow. Maybe they put me at some corner table with the plus ones and distant relatives nobody really wants to talk to. But no, nothing. It's like I don't exist, like I'm some kind of ghost haunting this overpriced French restaurant. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. They didn't just treat me like a plus one on the invitation. They literally forgot to make space for me at their fancy dinner party. Or worse, they did it on purpose. The more I think about it, the more I'm betting it's the latter. This has Virginia Henderson written all over it, that passive-aggressive bitch who's been trying to drive a wedge between me and Isla since day one. I turn to find my wife, hoping maybe she can explain this clusterfuck, but Isla's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine right now. She's standing near the main table, completely absorbed in whatever's happening on her phone screen, her fingers flying over the keyboard like she's conducting some kind of digital symphony. Her face is lit up by that blue glow, and she's got that little half smile she gets when she's texting with her girlfriends about whatever drama is currently consuming their social circle. Isla. I say, trying to keep my voice level even though I can feel my blood pressure climbing. Where exactly am I supposed to sit? She barely glances up from her phone, giving me the kind of dismissive look you'd give a waiter who interrupted your conversation. What? She asks, like she genuinely has no idea what I'm talking about. My seat. I repeat, gesturing around the room full of perfectly arranged place cards. Where is it? Before Isla can even pretend to care about answering my question, her mother Virginia swoops in like some kind of vulture in designer clothing. The woman's got this smile plastered on her face that doesn't reach her eyes. The kind of smile that promises pain and humiliation wrapped up in polite conversation. Virginia leans over toward me, and I can smell her expensive perfume mixed with the champagne she's already been nursing. When she speaks, her voice is sweet as honey and twice as poisonous. "Oh, Marcus," she says, dragging my name out like it tastes bad in her mouth. "Why don't you try that dirty little pub across the street? It might be more your crowd." The words hang in the air between us like a toxic cloud. I can feel the conversations around us starting to quiet down as people pick up on the tension. This is exactly the kind of scene Virginia lives for. Public humiliation disguised as helpful suggestion, delivered with just enough plausible deniability that she can act innocent if anyone calls her out on it. But the real knife in the back comes from my own wife. Isla finally looks up from her phone, takes in the situation, and then does something that makes my heart drop straight into my shoes. She laughs. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable laugh, but a genuine, amused laugh like her mother just told the funniest joke she's heard all week. "Yeah," Isla says, still chuckling as she looks me up and down like she's seeing me for the first time. "It suits you perfectly." The words hit me like ice water thrown in my face. This isn't just about a missing place card anymore. This is about my wife, the woman I love, the woman I've been defending and supporting for 3 years, publicly agreeing that I don't belong here, that I belong in some dirty little pub with people more like me. Whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Time seems to freeze for a moment after Isla's words hit me. The laughter from the rest of the party feels muffled, like I'm underwater, and all I can hear is the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Virginia's standing there with that satisfied smirk on her face, like she just landed the perfect killing blow in some twisted game I didn't even know we were playing. Isla's already looking back down at her phone, dismissing me like I'm some kind of minor inconvenience she's dealt with and can now forget about. But here's the thing about being pushed to your breaking point. Sometimes you don't break the way people expect you to. Sometimes you don't explode into anger or crumble into humiliation. Sometimes you just get really, really calm. And that's exactly what happens to me right now. It's like someone just flipped a switch in my brain, and all the hurt and embarrassment gets pushed down into this cold, focused clarity. I feel my face rearrange itself into a smile. Not the fake, polite smile I've been wearing to these family gatherings for the past 3 years, but something else entirely. Something that probably looks pleasant enough from the outside, but feels like steel on the inside. It's the kind of smile that means business, even if nobody else in this room is smart enough to recognize it. "You know what?" I say, and my voice comes out perfectly level, perfectly controlled. "I'll do that." The simplicity of my response seems to catch Virginia off guard. I can see it in her eyes. She was expecting a fight, expecting me to get defensive or angry, or maybe even beg for a seat at their precious table. She was looking forward to watching me squirm, to seeing me embarrass myself in front of all these people who already think I'm beneath them. But instead, I just agreed with her suggestion like it's the most reasonable thing in the world. Virginia's smirk falters for just a second, and I catch a glimpse of confusion in her expression before she covers it up with another one of those poisonous smiles. "Oh," she says, clearly not sure how to handle my calm acceptance. "Well, that's practical of you." Isla doesn't even look up from her phone. She's completely absorbed in whatever digital conversation is more important than the fact that her husband just got kicked out of her sister's birthday party. The woman I married, the woman I've loved and supported through everything, can't even be bothered to acknowledge what just happened. That stings worse than anything Virginia could have said to me. I take one last look around the room, at the golden tablecloths and crystal champagne flutes, at all the perfectly dressed people with their perfectly arranged lives, at the place cards that spell out exactly where everyone belongs except for me. Then I turn around and start walking toward the exit. No dramatic speech. No throwing my gift on the floor or knocking over a champagne glass. No storming out with a string of profanity that would give these uptight assholes something to gossip about for the next 6 months. Just a quiet, dignified exit from a party where I was never really welcome in the first place. The conversations around me seem to pause as I make my way through the room. I can feel eyes following me, can practically hear the whispered speculation starting up behind my back. Did you see what just happened? Where's he going? What did Virginia say to him? The gossip mill is already cranking up, and I'm sure by tomorrow morning this little incident will be twisted into some story about how I couldn't handle being around sophisticated people, how I threw a tantrum and stormed out like some kind of child. Let them think whatever they want. Let them spin their little stories and pat themselves on the back for being so much better than the working-class guy who somehow tricked their precious Isla into marrying him. Because what none of these people know, what they're all too arrogant and self-absorbed to have bothered finding out, is that Marcus Grant has a few surprises up his sleeve. As I push through the heavy glass doors of La Veranda and step out onto the sidewalk, I can feel the cool Boston evening air hit my face. The contrast between the stuffy, perfumed atmosphere inside and the real world outside is like a wake-up call. This is where I belong, not in some overpriced restaurant full of people playing dress-up and pretending their money makes them better than everyone else, but out here in the actual world where things matter. I cross the street, and there it is, the dirty little pub that Virginia suggested with such obvious disdain. From the outside, it doesn't look like much. The sign is simple, understated, just clean lettering that says The Granite Tap in elegant script. The windows are warm and inviting, showing glimpses of rich wood and soft lighting inside. It's nothing like the gaudy display of wealth I just walked out of, but there's something honest about it, something real. The irony of the situation is so perfect, it's almost funny. Almost. Virginia Henderson, in all her infinite wisdom and class consciousness, just sent me to exactly where I wanted to be. She thinks she's humiliated me, thinks she's put me in my place by suggesting I go hang out with my own kind at some dive bar. She has no idea that she just handed me the perfect opportunity to show these people exactly who they've been underestimating for the past 3 years. They thought they'd won. They thought they'd finally gotten rid of the inconvenient husband who didn't fit into their perfect little world. They thought I'd slink off into the night, humiliated and defeated, maybe disappear from Isla's life entirely and save them all the trouble of having to deal with me anymore. But what Virginia and Isla and all the rest of them don't know, what they never bothered to find out because they were too busy looking down their noses at me, is that I own that dirty little pub across the street. Not just the building, not just a piece of the business, but the entire operation. The whole fucking brand. Tonight's going to be the night they finally learn who Marcus Grant really is. And something tells me they're not going to like what they discover. The moment I push through the heavy oak doors of the Granite Tap, it's like stepping into a completely different universe. The atmosphere hits me immediately, warm, welcoming, sophisticated without being pretentious. This is my world, my creation, and the contrast between this place and the gold-plated circus I just escaped couldn't be more stark. Marcus. The greeting comes from 3 different directions at once, and I can't help but smile. A real smile this time, not the carefully controlled mask I was wearing across the street. My staff genuinely lights up when they see me, and the warmth in their voices is something those phonies at La Veranda will never understand. This is what real hospitality looks like, what genuine respect sounds like. Tommy, my head server, hurries over from the bar where he was polishing glasses. Boss, we were. Everything okay? There's concern in his voice, the kind that comes from actually giving a damn about someone rather than just going through the motions. Everything's perfect, I tell him, and for the first time all evening, I actually mean it. Just felt like checking in on the operation. The interior of the Granite Tap is exactly what I envisioned when I bought this place 7 years ago. Understated elegance that doesn't need to scream about how expensive everything is. The lighting is soft and warm, coming from custom-made fixtures that cast a golden glow over the rich mahogany bar and exposed brick walls. The tables are solid wood, each one carefully selected and arranged to create intimate conversation spaces. There's jazz playing softly in the background, real jazz from actual musicians, not some playlist designed to impress people who don't know the difference. I make my way through the dining room, greeting regulars, and checking in with my team. This place runs like a Swiss watch because I've built something real here, something based on actual quality rather than just flash and status. Every detail has been thought through, from the locally sourced ingredients to the carefully curated wine list to the way we train our staff to treat every guest like they matter. Chef Annika catches sight of me from behind the pass and gives me a quick nod before returning to her work. She's plating what looks like tonight's special, duck confit with cherry gastrique and roasted root vegetables. The presentation is absolutely flawless, like edible art, but unlike the pretentious bullshit they serve across the street, this is food that actually tastes as good as it looks. Annika's been with me for 5 years now, ever since I poached her from one of those stuffy downtown establishments where they cared more about the size of your wallet than the quality of your palate. "Evening, boss," calls Richie from behind the bar. He's already reaching for the tap that serves my usual, a craft cider from a small brewery up in Vermont that nobody's heard of, but makes some of the best stuff I've ever tasted. Richie's got this gift for remembering exactly what every regular drinks, and he's been perfecting cocktails here that put those overpriced mixed drinks at fancy hotel bars to shame. I accept the cider and take a moment to just absorb the atmosphere. The dinner crowd is in full swing, but it's a completely different energy than what I just left behind. These are people who appreciate quality, who understand that true sophistication doesn't need to announce itself with gold leaf and crystal chandeliers. Artists discussing their latest projects over perfectly prepared meals. Entrepreneurs closing deals with handshakes rather than lawyers. Food critics who come here not because they have to, but because they genuinely love what we're doing. "Mind if I jump in the kitchen for a bit?" I ask Annika, and she grins. "Your kitchen, your rules," she says, but we both know it's really hers when it comes to the day-to-day operations. I trust her completely, which is why this place runs so smoothly even when I'm not here. I head to the back office and grab one of my tailored chef's coats, not because I need to cook tonight, but because this is who I really am. Not the guy in the expensive suit trying to fit in with people who will never accept him, but the chef and owner who built something meaningful from the ground up. The coat fits perfectly, and when I catch sight of myself in the office mirror, I see the man I actually am instead of the man I was pretending to be an hour ago. When I step into the open kitchen, something magical happens. I can feel the energy shift, can sense my team rallying around me even though nothing dramatic has changed. This is where I belong, where my presence actually matters and makes a difference. I pick up a spoon and taste the sauce Annika's working on, make a small suggestion about the seasoning, and watch as she adjusts it with the kind of professional respect that comes from years of working together. But then I notice something that makes me pause. From my position in the open kitchen, I have a perfect view through the large front windows that face the street. And across that street, at La Veranda, I can see faces starting to turn in our direction. At first it's just 1 or 2 people, probably curious about the warm light and obvious activity coming from the granite tap. But then more heads start to turn, and I realize that the party guests are beginning to notice something. They're noticing that the dirty little pub across the street isn't what they expected. They're seeing the caliber of people walking in and out of my restaurant, the luxury cars pulling up to drop off guests, the general atmosphere of sophisticated success that radiates from this place even from a distance. I watch as one of Felicia's friends points across the street, saying something to the woman next to her. Then another guest turns to look, and another. The conversations at La Veranda are starting to shift, and I can practically see the curiosity spreading through that glittering room like wildfire. And there, at the main table, I can see Isla. She's finally put down her phone and is looking directly at our front window. Even from this distance, I can see the confusion on her face, the way her champagne glass seems to be trembling slightly in her hand. The smirks are fading. The casual dismissal is turning into something else entirely, and the night is just getting started. By 8:30, the granite tap is absolutely buzzing, and I'm not talking about the kind of forced, artificial energy you get at corporate networking events or charity galas. This is the real deal. Genuine excitement, authentic conversation, the kind of atmosphere that happens when you bring together people who actually have something interesting to say and the intelligence to say it well. I'm moving between tables in my chef's coat, checking in with guests and making sure everything's running smoothly, when I notice the crowd we've drawn tonight is even more impressive than usual. At table 7, There's Marcus Chun, the guy who designed half the public art installations in Boston and just opened his third gallery in Soho. He's deep in conversation with Elena Rodriguez, who runs that nonprofit that's been transforming abandoned lots into community gardens throughout the city. Real people doing real work that actually matters. Over at the bar, I spot David Kim, the food blogger whose reviews can make or break restaurants throughout New England. He's not here on assignment tonight. This is just where he comes when he wants to eat something that'll blow his mind, without all the pretentious bullshit that usually comes with high-end dining. He catches my eye and raises his glass in acknowledgement, and I know he's enjoying whatever Richie mixed up for him. The pianist in the corner, Sarah Michelle, who graduated from Berkeley and could be playing concert halls if she wanted, transitions into this gorgeous jazz interpretation of a Radiohead song that somehow works perfectly with the room's energy. The sound fills the space without overwhelming conversation, which is exactly what live music should do in a restaurant setting. But then things get really interesting. A black sedan pulls up outside, and I watch through the window as the deputy mayor himself steps out. Patrick O'Sullivan has been a regular here for about 2 years now, ever since I helped cater a private dinner for some visiting Japanese investors who were considering a major development project in the city. The man knows good food when he tastes it, and more importantly, he knows how to appreciate quality without needing to broadcast it to the world. Marcus, Patrick calls out as he makes his way through the dining room, and I can see heads turning at other tables. Not because people are gawking. The Granite Tap attracts the kind of clientele who understand that privacy and discretion are part of what makes a place special, but because there's a genuine warmth in his greeting that you can't fake. Save me a seat at the bar, will you? Had a hell of a day dealing with the city council, and I need one of Richie's famous old fashions. I glance across the street while Patrick's getting settled, and the scene at La Veranda has completely shifted. What started as curious glances has turned into full-on staring. I can see groups of people huddled together, clearly talking about what they're witnessing. The deputy mayor's arrival didn't go unnoticed. His security detail is subtle but visible, and anyone with half a brain can figure out that some serious people are choosing to spend their evening at the dirty little pub instead of the fancy French restaurant. The real turning point comes when I notice several of the party guests pulling out their phones. At first, I think they're just taking more selfies or posting to their social media accounts. But then I realize what's actually happening. They're Googling the Granite Tap. They're looking us up, trying to figure out what the hell they've been missing all this time. I can almost see the exact moment when the first search results hit their screens. There's this ripple effect that moves through the crowd at La Veranda. People leaning over to look at each other's phones. Urgent whispered conversations. The kind of energy that spreads when people realize they've made a serious miscalculation. Because here's what they're finding when they search for my restaurant. Article after article, review after review, all painting the same picture. The Granite Tap, Boston's most exclusive culinary hideaway. Hidden gem, the restaurant Boston's elite don't want you to know about. Chef Marcus Grant's underground empire, where real food meets real people. The Boston Globe called us the city's best-kept secret, a place where culinary excellence meets unpretentious sophistication. Food and Wine magazine did a whole feature on how I've managed to create something that attracts serious food lovers without any of the traditional markers of high-end dining. No dress code, no attitude, no bullshit, just incredible food and genuine hospitality. And then there are the headlines that really matter, the ones that spell out exactly who owns and operates this place. Reclusive chef Marcus Grant, the quiet revolutionary behind Boston's most talked-about restaurant. From Wall Street to kitchen, how Marcus Grant built a culinary empire one dish at a time. The Granite Tap, chef-owner Marcus Grant's love letter to authentic dining. Back at La Veranda, the silence is deafening. I can see Virginia Henderson's face from here, and she looks like she just swallowed something that disagreed with her. The woman who suggested I go hang out at the dirty little pub with my own kind is now staring at a restaurant that's consistently rated among the top dining experiences in the city, owned and operated by the man she just humiliated in front of 40 people. Isla's not looking at her phone anymore. She's looking directly across the street, directly at me standing in my open kitchen, and even from this distance I can see that something fundamental has shifted in her expression. The dismissive amusement is gone, replaced by something that looks a lot like shock mixed with the dawning realization that she just fucked up in a very public, very permanent way. The conversations at La Veranda have taken on a different quality now. Instead of celebration and laughter, there's urgent, hushed discussion. People are showing each other their phone screens, pointing across the street, trying to figure out how they missed something this significant. The birthday party has effectively been derailed by the discovery that the man they just kicked out isn't some working-class nobody trying to climb above his station. He's the chef-owner of one of Boston's most respected restaurants. And the night's just getting warmed up. The rest of the evening at the Granite Tap flows like clockwork, but I can't shake the awareness of the chaos unfolding across the street. Every few minutes, I catch glimpses through the window of animated conversations, people frantically typing on their phones, and what looks like a full-scale damage control operation happening at Felicia's birthday party. The golden fairy tale atmosphere they'd worked so hard to create has been completely shattered by a simple Google search. I'm in the middle of expediting orders when my phone starts buzzing like crazy. Text after text, email after email, all flooding in faster than I can keep up with. At first I ignore it. Dinner service is sacred time, and nothing short of a kitchen fire gets my attention when we're in the weeds. But the notifications keep coming, and finally Richie catches my eye from behind the bar. "Boss," he says, holding up his own phone. "You might want to check your messages. Something's going down." I step into the back office for a quick minute and pull up my phone, and what I see makes me laugh out loud. My reservation system has basically exploded. Email after email from people who, just a few hours ago, probably didn't even know the Granite Tap existed. Suddenly, everyone wants a table. Everyone wants to experience what they've been missing. Everyone wants to be part of the exclusive club they just discovered. The requests are coming from addresses I recognize: Henderson family friends, Felicia's college sorority sisters, even some of the business associates who were at the party tonight. People who spent years looking right through me at family gatherings are now desperately trying to get into my restaurant. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so pathetically predictable. But the real entertainment comes later that night, after we've closed, and I'm going through the flood of messages. My friend Chloe, who works in PR and was somehow on the guest list for Felicia's party, sends me a text that makes my whole evening. "Dude, you need to know what happened after you left." Complete meltdown. She follows up with a phone call, and I can hear the barely contained laughter in her voice as she fills me in on the details. "Marcus, I have never seen anything like it. The moment people started figuring out who you really were, it was like watching dominoes fall. Isla completely lost her shit." According to Chloe, my dear wife went into full panic mode the second she realized that half the party guests were Googling her husband and discovering that he wasn't just some working-class guy who got lucky. He was actually more successful than most of the people in that room. She kept trying to get people to put their phones away, saying stuff like, "This isn't the time for that." But it was way too late. The cat was already out of the bag. But Virginia Henderson's reaction was even better. Apparently, Isla's mother spent the remainder of the evening attempting what Chloe calls emergency reputation management. She was going from table to table, trying to spin the situation in her favor, but every lie she told just made things worse. She kept saying things like, "Oh, he used to be a janitor. Now he just runs the kitchen," Chloe tells me, and I can practically hear her rolling her eyes. But people were literally showing her articles about you buying the building, about your background in corporate finance, about how you built the whole concept from scratch. She looked like a complete idiot. The best part, though, is hearing about how the other guests reacted. These are people who pride themselves on being in the know, on having insider access to the best restaurants and experiences in the city. Finding out that they'd been completely unaware of one of Boston's most exclusive dining destinations, and that they'd just watched the owner get humiliated and kicked out of their party, was apparently a level of social embarrassment they weren't equipped to handle. Half the people at the party left early, Chloe continues. They were all trying to figure out how to get reservations at your place, asking if anyone had connections, basically treating you like some kind of celebrity they'd just discovered. It was beautiful to watch. Within hours of the party ending, my inbox is completely flooded. Formal reservation requests, attempts at name-dropping mutual acquaintances, even a few people trying to apologize for not recognizing my accomplishments earlier. The desperation is almost palpable in some of these messages. There's one from Ashley Morrison, who I remember giving me dirty looks at every family gathering for the past 3 years. Now she's asking if I remember her from various Henderson family events and wondering if I might have any availability for dinner next weekend for her and her fiancé. She mentions 3 times how much they appreciate innovative cuisine and support local businesses. Even better is the message from Felicia's boyfriend, Trevor, who spent most of last Christmas explaining to me why my opinions about wine were wrong because I probably hadn't been exposed to the really good stuff. Now he's sliding into my DMs asking for a table for 2, mentioning how he's always been interested in the culinary arts and would love to experience what everyone's talking about. I delete that one immediately. Some bridges, once burned, stay burned. The funniest part of this whole situation is watching people try to rewrite history in real time. Suddenly, everyone claims they always knew there was something special about me, that they could tell I had hidden depths, that they never doubted my potential for success. The same people who treated me like an inconvenience for 3 years are now falling all over themselves to get in my good graces. But the truth can't be ignored anymore, and that's what makes this so satisfying. For years, these people looked at me and saw exactly what they wanted to see. A working-class guy who didn't belong in their world, someone they could dismiss and ignore without consequence. They never bothered to ask what I did for work, never showed any interest in my life or my achievements, never considered that maybe their assumptions were dead wrong. Now they know better. Now they understand that Marcus Grant isn't someone they can afford to underestimate. And judging by the desperate tone of these reservation requests, they're starting to realize that getting back into my good graces isn't going to be nearly as easy as getting kicked out of it was. A week later, I'm sitting in my office at the Granite Tap, going through invoices and supplier contracts, when Tommy knocks on my door with this huge grin on his face. He's holding something behind his back like a kid with a surprise, and I can tell he's practically vibrating with excitement. "Boss, you're going to want to see this," he says, and then he pulls out the latest issue of Boston Gourmet Monthly. The magazine is thick and glossy, the kind of publication that costs $12 and sits on coffee tables in expensive waiting rooms and luxury condos throughout the city. But what makes me stop dead in my tracks is the cover. There I am, staring back at myself from the front of one of New England's most prestigious food magazines. It's a professional shot taken in the Granite Tap's kitchen, with me in my chef's coat, arms crossed, looking directly at the camera with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you've built. The headline stretches across the top in bold, elegant lettering. Marcus Grant, the hidden architect of Boston's quietest food empire. Below that, in smaller text, inside the mind of the chef who redefined exclusivity. Holy shit, I breathe, taking the magazine from Tommy's hands. The cover photo is incredible. Whoever their photographer was really knew what they were doing. The lighting captures the warm atmosphere of the restaurant while making me look like exactly what I am. A serious chef and businessman who's created something extraordinary. Tommy's practically bouncing on his heels. It gets better, boss. Wait until you read the article. I flip through the magazine until I find the feature story, and what I see makes my jaw drop. This isn't just some quick restaurant review or brief profile piece. This is a full 8-page spread with professional photography throughout, covering everything from the restaurant's design philosophy to my background in corporate finance, to how I've managed to create what they call the most authentic fine dining experience in New England. The article opens with a description of the Granite Tap that makes me proud to read. In a city where culinary excellence often comes with attitude and pretension, Marcus Grant has achieved something remarkable, a restaurant that attracts Boston's most discerning diners without alienating anyone who simply loves good food. The Granite Tap doesn't need velvet ropes or celebrity endorsements to maintain its exclusivity. It earns it every night through consistently extraordinary experiences. They dive deep into my story, starting with my decision to leave the corporate finance world after burning out on the endless pursuit of profit over purpose. The writer, Sarah Chun, actually did her homework. She interviewed former colleagues who talked about how I was already cooking elaborate meals for clients and colleagues, how I was always the guy organizing dinner parties and wine tastings, how everyone knew I had a passion for food that went way beyond just eating it. Grant didn't stumble into the restaurant business, the article explains. He methodically planned his transition, spending 2 years working nights and weekends in various kitchens throughout Boston, learning every aspect of restaurant operations from prep cook to expediter. When he finally bought the building that would become the Granite Tap, he had already spent months developing relationships with local farmers, specialty suppliers, and the kind of culinary talent that most restaurants can only dream of attracting. The piece goes into detail about how I designed the space with my friend Alejandro, who's an architect specializing in hospitality projects. We didn't want anything that screamed, "Look how expensive we are." Instead, we focused on creating an environment where the food and the experience spoke for themselves. The writer describes it as understated sophistication that doesn't need to announce itself, the kind of confidence that comes from substance rather than style. But what really gets me is how they capture the philosophy behind everything I've built here. Grant has created something increasingly rare in modern dining, a restaurant that operates entirely on referrals and word of mouth, yet maintains a 3-month waiting list. There's no publicity machine, no social media campaigns, no celebrity chef theatrics. Just consistently exceptional food served in an environment that treats every guest like a valued friend. The article includes quotes from some of our regular customers, and reading them makes me realize how well we've achieved what I set out to do. David Kim, the food blogger, says, "The Granite Tap is what every restaurant should aspire to be. A place where the quality of the experience matters more than the size of your wallet or the recognizability of your name." Deputy Mayor O'Sullivan is quoted saying, "Marcus has created a space where real conversations happen over real food. It's become the place where Boston's most interesting people go when they want to have dinner, not when they want to be seen having dinner." There's even a full page dedicated to the team, with a gorgeous photo of me standing with Chef Annika and the rest of the kitchen staff. The caption reads, "Chef owner Marcus Grant and his elite team have redefined what it means to be a neighborhood restaurant." Annika looks incredible in the shot, and you can see the genuine camaraderie between all of us. This isn't some staged corporate photo. It's a picture of people who genuinely respect each other and love what they do. The article goes on to detail how I've managed to maintain the restaurant's exclusive feel without being exclusionary. The Granite Tap doesn't discriminate based on wealth or status, Chin writes. It discriminates based on appreciation for quality and respect for the craft. The result is a dining room that might include a James Beard Award winner sharing a meal with a local teacher who saved up for a special occasion, and both feeling equally welcome. Reading this article, seeing my work and my vision laid out in such detail by someone who clearly understands what I've been trying to accomplish, feels like validation on a level I didn't even know I needed. For years, I've been building something I believed in, trusting that quality and authenticity would eventually speak for themselves. Now, thanks to one night when my in-laws tried to humiliate me, the whole city is finally paying attention. The magazine hits the stands on a Tuesday, and by Thursday night, the ripple effects are impossible to ignore. My phone's been ringing non-stop with interview requests, partnership offers, and reservation attempts from people who clearly think name-dropping will get them a table. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepares me for what happens when I'm finishing up in the kitchen around 10 o'clock and Tommy appears at my elbow with that look on his face. "Boss," he says, keeping his voice low even though the dining room has mostly cleared out. "You're going to want to see this." I follow him toward the front of the restaurant, and there, standing just outside our front door like some kind of twisted déjà vu, is Isla. She's dressed to the nines in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's rent, her hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless despite the fact that it's past 10 on a weeknight. In her hands, she's clutching this sad little bouquet of grocery store flowers, the kind you grab at the last minute when you realize you've fucked up and need to make some kind of gesture. But she's not alone. Standing right behind her, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else on earth, is Virginia Henderson. The woman who suggested I go hang out at this dirty little pub with my own kind is now standing on my doorstep, wearing what I can only describe as the most forced smile I've ever seen in my life. Her hands are actually trembling, whether from anger, embarrassment, or genuine fear, I can't tell. Maybe all three. I walk over to Marcus, our host for the evening, a guy I hired away from one of those uptight downtown establishments because he understands that hospitality doesn't mean kissing ass. It means treating people with genuine respect while maintaining standards. What's the situation? I ask him quietly. The lady says she wants a table for two. Marcus tells me, and I can hear the professional neutrality in his voice. To talk, she said. I told her we're fully booked, but she's persistent. Through the glass door, I can see Isla scanning the dining room like she's looking for empty tables she can point to as evidence that we're lying about being full. What she doesn't understand is that the granite tap operates on a completely different system than places like La Veranda. We don't keep tables empty just in case someone important shows up. Every seat is spoken for. Every reservation carefully managed to ensure the kind of experience our guests expect. I take a deep breath and walk outside, letting the cool night air hit my face as I step onto the sidewalk. Isla immediately perks up when she sees me, putting on that smile she uses when she's trying to charm her way out of trouble. It's the same smile she gave me when I caught her going through my phone last year. The same smile she used when she forgot to mention her ex-boyfriend would be at her company Christmas party. Marcus, she says, and her voice has that carefully modulated tone that rich people use when they're trying to sound humble. I was hoping we could talk, maybe over dinner. Behind her, Virginia shifts uncomfortably, and I notice she won't quite make eye contact with me. Good. She should be uncomfortable. She should be embarrassed. After 3 years of treating me like something she scraped off her shoe, she's finally realizing that maybe, just maybe, she misjudged the situation. We'd like a table, Isla continues, holding up those pathetic flowers like they're some kind of peace offering. I know it's last minute, but I look past her to Marcus, who's standing in the doorway looking professional and unflappable. Do they have a reservation? I ask him, loud enough for both women to hear. Marcus shakes his head with just the right amount of regret. No, sir. And we're fully booked for the next 3 months. The expression on Isla's face shifts from hopeful to incredulous to something approaching panic. 3 months, she repeats, like she can't quite process what she's hearing. But I'm his wife. And there it is. The entitlement that's been lurking underneath all of this from the beginning. The assumption that being married to me automatically grants her access to whatever she wants, whenever she wants it, regardless of how she's treated me or the business I've built. The idea that she can humiliate me in public and then show up a week later expecting special treatment. I look at her for a long moment, really look at her, and I realize something that should probably make me sad, but actually feels kind of liberating. This woman, who I've loved and supported and defended for 3 years, still doesn't get it. She still doesn't understand that respect is earned, not inherited. She still thinks that titles and relationships can substitute for actual consideration and decency. This restaurant doesn't take walk-ins, I tell her, and my voice is perfectly calm, perfectly professional. You'll need a referral from someone who understands value. The words hang in the air between us like a challenge. Virginia's forced smile finally cracks completely, and I can see the anger starting to surface in her eyes. She's not used to being told no, especially not by someone she considers beneath her social station. But anger is all she's got left, because the truth is out now, and there's no amount of money or social connections that can change what everyone in this city now knows about Marcus Grant. Isla opens her mouth like she's going to argue, maybe pull out the wife card again or threaten some kind of scene. But before she can say anything, I turn around and walk back into my restaurant. Not storming off this time, not running away from confrontation, just calmly returning to the place where I belong, where I'm respected, where my word actually means something. Through the glass, I can see them standing there for another minute or two, probably trying to figure out what their next move should be. Virginia looks like she's having some kind of internal struggle between her natural inclination to cause a scene and her growing realization that making a fuss outside Boston's most talked-about restaurant might not be the smartest PR move. Eventually, they turn and walk away, Isla still clutching those grocery store flowers, both of them probably heading back to whatever world they came from, where money and connections can solve any problem and buy any solution. They never made it past the threshold. And honestly, that's exactly how it should be. 2 weeks pass in relative peace. The granite tap continues running like the well-oiled machine it's always been. The magazine article brings in a steady stream of genuinely interested diners, and life settles into a rhythm that feels more authentic than anything I've experienced in years. Then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, an envelope appears in my mailbox with no return address. I know that handwriting before I even fully register what I'm looking at. It's Isla's careful script, the same penmanship that graced the invitation that started this whole mess. For a split second, I consider throwing the damn thing away without opening it, but curiosity gets the better of me. Inside, there's a single sheet of paper with a message that's so simple it actually catches me off guard. No lengthy explanations trying to justify her behavior. No elaborate apologies designed to make her look good. No attempts to manipulate me back into the relationship on her terms. Just 4 sentences that hit harder than any grand gesture could have. I never asked what mattered to you. I never saw who you really were. I'm sorry. That's it. No signature, no love notes, no promises about how things will be different. Just an acknowledgement of the fundamental problem that's been eating away at our marriage for 3 years. She never bothered to actually know me. I don't reply. What would be the point? Sorry doesn't undo 3 years of dismissal and humiliation. Sorry doesn't erase the laughter when her mother suggested I belonged in a dirty little pub. Sorry is just a word people use when they finally realize there are consequences for their actions. But Isla's not done trying. The next week, something interesting happens during our usual morning prep. Marcus, my host manager, comes back to the kitchen with a job application and this weird expression on his face. "Boss, we got an application for a dish runner position," he says, holding up the paperwork. But something's off about it. I take the application and immediately understand his confusion. The handwriting is different, messier, more casual, but there's something about the way certain letters are formed that I recognize. The applicant's name is listed as Izzy Sanchez, but when I look at the references and previous work experience, it's all bullshit. Creative bullshit, but bullshit nonetheless. Isla's trying to get a job at my restaurant under a fake name. The smart move would be to reject the application immediately, save us both the awkwardness and complications that are bound to follow. But there's something about the attempt that intrigues me, not because I think she deserves another chance, but because I'm curious to see if she's actually serious about this or if it's just another manipulation tactic. Hire her, I tell Marcus, and his eyebrows shoot up. As a dish runner. Standard pay, standard expectations, no special treatment. You sure about this, boss? I nod. Yeah. Let's see what happens when someone has to actually earn their place for once. Because here's the thing about real understanding. It can't be talked about or apologized into existence. It has to be earned through work, through showing up day after day, through proving that you're willing to do what it takes even when nobody's watching. If Isla wants to understand who I really am and what I've built here, she's going to have to start from the bottom like everyone else. No shortcuts, no special privileges, no safety net, just the work itself and whatever lessons. Months pass, and Izzy Sanchez becomes part of the daily rhythm at the Granite Tap. I watch her from the kitchen as she scrubs plates until her hands are raw, hauls heavy bus tubs without complaint, and slowly learns what it actually means to work in a restaurant. She shows up early, stays late, and never once asks for special treatment or tries to pull the wife card when things get tough. The other staff members don't know who she really is. To them, she's just another dish runner who's grateful for the job and willing to put in the effort. And that's exactly how it should be. For the first time since I've known her, Isla is being judged purely on her actions rather than her family connections or bank account. She doesn't quit. That surprises me more than I want to admit. I expected her to last maybe a week before the reality of actual physical labor sent her running back to her trust fund lifestyle. But she keeps coming back, keeps learning, keeps earning the respect of the kitchen crew through work rather than words. Slowly, something changes in the way she carries herself. The entitled attitude fades, replaced by genuine curiosity about how the restaurant operates. She starts asking real questions about food prep, about supplier relationships, about what it takes to maintain the standards we've built here. She listens when Annika explains cooking techniques, pays attention when Richie talks about wine pairings, absorbs everything like she's finally understanding that there's a whole world of knowledge she never bothered to explore. One evening after closing, I find her sitting at the staff table in the back, looking completely exhausted. Her designer clothes have been replaced by kitchen whites stained with the honest work of a long shift. Her perfectly manicured nails are gone, replaced by hands that show the wear of real labor. Without saying anything, I place a plate in front of her, our signature wild mushroom risotto, The dish that made Food and Wine magazine call us a revelation in comfort food elevated to art. She looks up at me with surprise, then down at the plate, then takes a careful bite. The expression that crosses her face tells me everything I need to know. There are tears in her eyes, not from sadness, but from something deeper, understanding, maybe, or recognition of what she'd been missing all along. I didn't know food could hold forgiveness, she says quietly. I nod, because that's exactly what good food does. It tells stories, builds bridges, offers second chances to people willing to earn them. That Sunday, I do something I haven't done in months. I host a private brunch at the restaurant, just for family. No customers, no pressure, no performance. Just Isla, Felicia, and even Virginia, sitting around a simple table set with fresh bread, soft morning light, and honest food made with care. The table isn't dressed in gold linen or decorated with expensive flowers. There's no pretense, no status games, no hierarchy based on money or connections. Just real conversation over real food. The kind of meal that nourishes more than just hunger. Finally, there's a seat for me at the family table. And this time, I'm the one who set it.